This isn't pick one or the other, but can you talk a little bit about your
Yes.
violins and bows that you
Yeah, I
have
was
here?
waiting for you to talk about it. Okay, so where do we start? Okay, let's start with this like candy here. Okay, so this one is a Stradivarius.
Okay.
This is made in 1709.
Okay.
It's called the Engleman Stradivarius.
Sure.
It is a beautiful instrument. It has such a caramel coating to it, first of all, you can see.
Yeah.
The varnish is really well done.
Mhm.
I don't know how much of it is original, but I love the look of it,
Yeah,
first of all.
yeah.
It's a huge instrument for Stradivari. If
Mm.
you look at it, it's pretty wide. It's
Okay.
pretty fat. I mean,
Right,
maybe
right.
for violinists, for us, we can tell it's pretty fat.
Wow, it's like in such beautiful condition.
It is.
Yeah.
It's an amazing condition.
Yeah.
The sound, because as you can see, it's pretty flat as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It has a huge sound
Mhm.
for an old instrument.
Mhm.
It has kind of this robust, throaty sound to it, which I think is so hard to get out of a violin.
Right.
It projects beautifully. It can speak very fast. There's clear colors between the G, D, A, and E string. A real powerhouse. And it's one of my go-tos if I were playing a big concerto. Baroque pieces, somehow it works on this too.
Okay.
This is also a very beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
This is a Guarneri Del
Okay.
Gesu, nicknamed the Titan.
Oh.
So I should make it clear. The Stradivarius is on loan to me from the Nippon Foundation in Japan.
Sure.
It's a long-term loan that I've acquired since 2022. This instrument is on loan to me by the CANIMEX Foundation, which is based out of Drummondville, Quebec in Canada.
Okay.
And also have been given a loan to use this instrument. It's a beautiful one. It's made in 1741.
Okay.
As you can see, the varnish is completely different.
Yeah.
It's very chocolate, like, more brittle.
Yeah.
It's a little smaller, actually.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
slim.
yeah.
And you can see it's not very fat.
Yeah.
The thing about this instrument is it's very, very, very nuanced.
Yeah.
It has a beautiful texture to it. It's much more silky than this one. This one I would call it more tiger-like. This one is much more, it has much more finesse. It doesn't do well in big concert halls, but it does amazing in recordings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one's the opposite. For
Okay.
recordings, it can sound a little bit one-dimensional.
Sure.
But on stage, for some reason, because of the textures and colors and the louder sound,
Yeah.
it just shows so much more.
Oh.
But this one, for some reason, because the arch is much higher as
Right,
well,
right.
naturally that doesn't allow so much of a sound production. But you can do so much more with the colors as well. So I'm very lucky to have both.
Yeah.
The bows, I have a couple bows, but quite frankly, I keep using this bow, and I know it's weird to do this, but I've had this since I was about 13 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and even though I've tried out some really, really fantastic bows, I have some on loan to me. I still go back to this one.
Sure.
I don't know, something about my technique really developed with this bow,
Sure, yeah.
and I just I can't really change. Same
Is
thing
it
with this one.
Is this a modern bow?
It's a modern bow.
Okay, okay.
It was made in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, by a guy of Charles Dubois, French Canadian. And this bow is a modern bow as well that I acquired when I was around 16.
Okay.
It's a very good bow too, but I also, similarly to this one, I keep going back to this because it's such a beautiful bow. This is my main bow, actually, I would say. It's made by a guy who lives actually in my hometown. His name is Michael Van.
Okay.
And I really like it. It just, I switch between the two.
Okay.
This is definitely much more for the big concertos.
Sure.
And this is kind of a nice all-purpose one. So, yeah, that's my instrument.
I'm curious. So
Yeah.
with the Strad, you said that you prefer that for the concert halls.
Yeah.
That along with the projection, do you think just the colors come out more in the overtones because it projects so well that it's better for the bigger halls?
I think with big concert halls, the biggest challenge for me is when you're having like a symphonic concert, you really have to have an instrument that cuts through.
Sure.
And this has the ability of cutting through, but still having a very strong sense of depth.
Yeah.
Because what often you get is a very loud instrument, but
Right.
it sounds very one-dimensional.
Right.
But something about this, because of the texture and the way it's been set up, and just I think a little bit of course, the history of this instrument is that you're able to hear a lot of depth with a lot of power as well. Yeah.
Okay.
This actually, I think, has more depth
Yeah.
than this instrument,
Sure.
but it doesn't really project in a 2,000-seat concert hall.
Yeah.
It does really well at 500 seats or less.
Sure.
But, and the problem is, if you start to force this instrument for a 2,000-seat hall, then it becomes one-dimensional as well.
Oh, okay.
Whereas this one, if you play too soft, it doesn't have any dimensions. So, yeah.
Interesting. So would you say you prefer the Strad for like you said, the big concertos, and then for the Guarneri, maybe like chamber music settings?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love this Del Gesu for like chamber ensembles.
Yeah,
I was playing that recently for a chamber music concert, and then this one's really good. It really does have a I mean, I love both, honestly. It depends on the hall, I would say. Yeah, you can make either one work.
Yeah.
But I'm talking from a point of luxury, of course, right? Just 20 million on the table here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm guessing you don't bring both everywhere, right?
Or have I ever brought both?
For like a concert?
No. I've never brought both. But I'd be curious one day to do a concert comparing the two. So maybe I'll do that one day.
Yeah, because I mean, one concert, like over a 3-day weekend of concerts, you can do one night.
Yeah, I don't like doing that because you know this instrument's bigger than this one. So if I go from here, I'll start missing everything. And if I go from this and this, everything sounds flat. I do have a modern instrument as well, which is my own. So these I don't own any of these. But I have one that I own. It's a Kurt Wyden house made in 2022. It's a modern instrument, and you know that instrument is very interesting. So as I mentioned, this is really good for big concert halls, but it has to be like good concert halls, right? Wood and nice seating and acoustically sound for instruments. This really good for acoustically sound like churches, seminar halls, and intimate settings. The modern instrument actually really shines in very difficult circumstances. If it's like a black theater, or if it's a carpeted room, or if it's a huge stadium that has no reverberation, the modern instrument does the best. Because it has that strength of being extremely laser-like with sound. It's a brand new instrument, so everything's very like crispy. And the sound, I mean, truly, it has the biggest sound of all because of the pure technology of it. We know what works and what doesn't. So those are kind of like the rosters of instruments that I use, and I do choose based on repertoire. Like if I'm going to a small concert church hall, I'll probably bring the Del Gesu. If I'm playing, as I will be with the Toronto Symphony in a couple of months, it's a big, beautiful concert hall, I will bring the Strad. And if I go to like a smaller regional orchestra that has not the best acoustics, I will probably bring the modern instrument because I ultimately want the not just for me, but I want the audience to have the best sonic experience. I've done the opposite before, where I brought the modern instrument to a really small concert hall. It was like too brash, and then the Strad to a black box theater, and it just like this. And then this went to a big concert hall, and people like can't hear you.
Oh, interesting. Well, and just quickly going back to your bows, that's interesting. You play on 2 modern bows because, I mean, of course, people talk about like the wave of like great modern violin makers, but equally so, I think right now there's a huge wave of great modern bow makers, and you're seeing a lot more people, both solo artists and others, that are choosing to play modern bows as opposed to the old French bows. So that's really interesting.
I think so. I think modern bows for me are just more all-purpose. And French bows I think are very specific to repertoire. You can only have 4 in a violin case. So and they always need to be rehaired. So I don't know. I do like some old bows as well, but they're so specific to repertoire.